if we take a look at the exact set of items that we're allowed to put into the description column, the single values we're allowed to put in are hat, fairy tale, Star Wars and scary. You'll notice that the table that's showing the columns from the products table is rather broken up. It doesn't look very clear. That's because our set column, the number of values that we've added, has thrown out the formatting for the MySQL monitor. Nothing's actually gone wrong with our system. It's just that it's impossible for it to show all of those values horizontally in the format that it wants to. With the enumeration column type that we found out about in the last movie, we were able to specify a single integer or whole number to add a value from the list of values that we specified when we created the column. We can do something similar with the set column type, but it's a little more complicated. If we want to add more than one value, as we do with a set column type, then instead of adding more than one integer, we type in a single integer that represents the binary representation of a truth table for the particular list that we specified when we created the description or whatever the set column was called. So let me be more specific about the way this works. We have in our set the values, possible values, hat, fairy tale, Star Wars and scary. Now each of these is represented by a binary figure, and confusingly, this is the confusing bit, the first value that we see in the list represents the smallest binary place value, and we're used to seeing the smallest place value like 1 to 9 or like the first 0 and 1 in a binary number on the right, so it's a little confusing to see that on the left. If we reverse things in our head though, then we can see how we can put together the right decimal number to represent the binary number that will tell MySQL which values to go for. If you're confused by this, don't worry, you can always put in the values manually. You can always specify hat, comma, Star Wars, or whatever it happens to be. However, it's a quick and efficient method to put the figures in by specifying the binary number, and we could find it useful in certain circumstances. Let's say we wanted to update the products table to specify a description for the Darth Vader mask. Now the Darth Vader mask is a hat. I wouldn't really say it comes from a fairy tale. It's a prop from the Star Wars themed paraphernalia, and it's very scary. Kids wear it to scare other kids. So basically we want hat, Star Wars and scary. We want those values. Now we could type them in separated by commas, or we could do it this way and enter a decimal number that represents the binary number for each of those values being true. So if we read from left to right, hat represents 1, so we do want a hat, so let's make a note of that. We've got hat is 1, fairy tale's not true, so 0 for fairy tale, which would otherwise represent 2. So far we've just got a total of 1. Move on to Star Wars, move up a binary place, we get 4, so add 1 to 4 we get 5. Move up another binary place, we get 8. Add 8 to 5, we get 13. So 13 is our representation of hat, Star Wars and scary in this case. Let's take a look at that. Put it in brackets just like we do with the other values. And number 10 is the Darth Vader mask, so that's the value that we want to change. Now if we run our select query on the products table, as we can see, the 3 values that we wanted have been added by using the decimal representation of the binary figure to specify the values to put into the set column. Once again, if you're not comfortable using this kind of notation, don't worry about it. You can always simply use the words themselves or the figures themselves, whatever you're using. And in fact, you may not need to use set and enumeration columns at all. They're very specific uses, and you shouldn't really use them unless you have a very good reason for doing so.